everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawkblogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser, and I am joined by the one, the only Dayna O'Gorman. I get to poke her.
I know, it's weird.
I get to poke her. It's great. How are you doing today?
Good. It's been a long day. I got up at 4 and flew here this morning, dropped my stuff off, ran over here. It's been fast and furious, but that's how these kind of events are, so it's fun. Yeah.
Where is this on your list of NFL events that you get to attend?
Well, since the first time I've been to the Combine, I will have to kind of see how the player stuff goes tomorrow. I'm really interested to see how that works. But this has been a lot of fun. The draft is not a lot of interacting with other people. It's just you do your job and you go on, and the Pro Bowl is just chaos. So this is a lot of fun. I've enjoyed getting a little more up close and personal with the
Wait a
coaches.
second. You said this is your first time?
This is the first time I've been to the Combine.
Hey, first time.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I always do the draft, and this
Yeah.
year Kate said, I need help. I can't get enough people. And I was like, let's do it. So as you know, it's hard to be everywhere at one time. So
Not a lot of people, well, not everybody, I should say, knows about other stuff that you do, your RTurf stuff. You want to talk about, like you said, Kate, like what do you guys do? And
so RTurf football, we have been around since 2012. And there's 4 of us, me, Kate, Lisa, and Sonia, and we cover the entire NFL, right? We cover all the teams, which is why we get to come to events like this, because all the teams are here, and so we do a podcast every week, and it's a lot of fun. It's been going on for a long time now, and it's fun. I keep running into people that I know, so it's a little nice, yeah.
It is pretty cool the way that they've got this set up. I gave people a little tour of this press row area this morning. I hadn't even yet gone on the other side of the curtain yet to realize that that's where all the press conferences are going to be.
Right.
I would have given people a tour of that too. But it's pretty convenient, you know? Like, you could do the show here, walk across, but there is a downside. I was, like, John Schneider did his press conference. You were there for part of that, yes?
Yes, I did, the last
So,
time.
so he did his. I ran back here. I posted the audio, a couple things here. And then I ran back over to hear Pete Carroll's press conference, and I think you were there for that as well,
I was,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I get a message from Dave Pearson, like maybe a half an hour. He goes, "Where were you? John Schneider and I came by your table. We were going to go on your show." Like, dude, come on, man. You got to let me know.
Text. Send me something.
I mean, there's communication mechanisms. He's like, "Oh, we just wanted to surprise you and drive by." Well, you surprised me.
Yeah, you surprised me because I was on the other side of the curtain. Yeah, it is funny, and I think that's why it's nice. And when you'll have Nathan here later in the week, to have a couple of people because you can kind of rotate and do all that stuff. I was giving you a bad time earlier, saying, "Oh, one team. Aren't you lucky? You only have to cover one team." I've taken probably 15 videos of all these different teams, but that's the fun of it too, right? Because then you get to kind of see and hear what other teams are up to too, which is really nice.
I gotta say, I mean. We'll see what these other events are like as I kind of get more experience with them. I have a hard time believing there's a better event in terms of access to all 32 teams, coaches, general managers, prospects, media members. Like, this is a pretty powerful event.
This really is. I think this is kind of where everything can kind of come together at once, because you have these, soon-to-be rookies and all of these, and then you have the GMs and the head coaches. Rarely do you get all of them in one spot. I will say for current player access, the Pro Bowl, we had forever, we could wander around and talk to them on the field. That was the old style Pro Bowl, not the new style Pro Bowl. But definitely, and then at the draft, we get one-on-one time with the new draftees. But really, to get everyone in one place, this is it.
Yeah, I've been blown away. I mean, to be able to hear from John, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and then hear from Pete, and then go over and talk to Dave Canales, listen to Sean Payton a little bit, listen to, Andy Reid, like just all these people. And you've been doing this long enough. I don't get starstruck as much. I felt a little starstruck yesterday when Pete Carroll walked on our airplane. I was like, that felt just too many worlds colliding. It just felt really weird. But it's just, these are folks that you just don't get access to, and we wouldn't have reason to get access to. So, I'm kind of blown away by that. I'm so excited now that I've got multiple days here, although a lot of people start checking out. Like, I think A lot of the Seahawks folks will be leaving Wednesday, tomorrow. Like
Yep.
a lot of the people that are here covering, like a lot of the press people for Seattle, they're leaving tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah, because
Oh.
it'll be after Mike McDonald's press conference. And
Oh,
so
sure. Yep.
for those of us that are like obsessed with the draft,
Yeah.
we get a little bit longer here. But talk to me about like what, if you want to talk John Schneider press conference first, great. But like just generally, anything you heard today that kind of caught your attention from any of the teams or any of the coaches or general managers?
Well, I will tell you that it's funny to me is that there's definitely some popularity levels around here. Like
Yeah.
I just tried to go and get some information from Dan Campbell. You couldn't get anywhere near it.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, his whole swarm around there, and I took a great picture of they had Howie Roseman and Pete Carroll right next to each other at those. You couldn't get it through anywhere. They were
Yep.
just it was so funny. But, it is a lot of the stuff, especially from the GMs, that I think we expect to hear. No, they're not going to talk about specific contracts. No, they're not going to talk about free agency and that sort of thing. Those are the type of questions they get here. What I have heard a lot, though, from every single one of the coaches up there is about the new hire coaches that they have. They're really talking about that, really kind of pumping them up, what they're going to bring to the table. Because I think that that's their current focus. Dan Campbell said, someone asked him about 2 specific players in the combine, and he's like, I'm nowhere near that. I don't have any of that information yet. I literally just got here. So
Yeah.
you can tell that
Yeah.
they got through what they needed to, and now is truly the start of their, college recruitment season.
Yeah. At Pete's presser, it was one of the popular ones, right?
It was, yes.
And
I was
just
there. I just
layer-
didn't watch.
Right, right. And I would bet John Spytek, the new GM for them, I didn't see, so I don't know. But I would expect that he probably had a half or a quarter. Like,
yeah.
Pete is...
Yeah.
He's a different presence, and you
Yeah.
gave the
I did.
signal. I felt the same
I
way.
did.
My people would say verklempt.
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like it was. He just has a way of connecting with people. It's
Yeah.
really special.
And it was so funny, as I was actually standing next to Grant Cohn, of all people.
Yes.
We were chit-chatting away, waiting for
Yeah.
Pete to come out.
Yeah.
And Grant is there. Grant covers the Niners. There he was, waiting for Pete to come out, right? And we looked around, he's like, half of them are Raiders, the other half were Seahawks people. And I
Yeah.
loved that. You can just tell that he is a presence here. And there was some guy from the Bengals was standing back there watching him. I think a lot of people are really glad that he's back in the league, and I think that people just truly like him
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And I posted a video both to Twitter and to YouTube that was a 1.5-minute clip of him answering Greg Bell's question about like what it meant for him to be like, his 15 years in Seattle and kind of reflecting on it. It was so heartfelt.
Yeah, it was.
Him talking about he still lives there, still home, which I wasn't even sure about.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with this new job. And
I just don't see Pete living in Vegas. Do you? It'd be
I don't
like,
know.
Vegas.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. But he just kind of went on for a couple minutes about how it surprised him even in this past year, running into people, hearing, like, knowing what an impact he had on the community and seeing that reflected, and that he'll treasure it forever and he never wants it to end. Like, that was so gratifying to hear that he has felt it. That
Yeah.
he's felt the reflection of how the Seahawks community feels about him. I think that was kind of like closure.
Right.
That you don't
Oh,
have to
for
worry
sure.
that he doesn't know how much
doesn't
he was
hate us.
loved.
Yeah,
You know?
and that is good. I thought, to go along with that too, I thought it was very interesting. He was asked about what it was like to take this year off, right, and that sort of thing. And he's like, you retired, and he's like, I did not retire.
He
Did you
not
see that?
like
He
me,
was
did
like,
not
I
like
did not
that.
retire.
Yeah.
We came to an agreement, and I thought that was actually very gracious of him.
He was
to say.
very gracious.
He really could have been snarky if he wanted to there, but I just don't think that's in his nature. But yeah, I thought that he's like, he like stopped that right away. But he said he understands what retirement might look like now.
Yep.
Which I'm like, dude, you're 73.
I know. I mean, Anything else that stood out for you from that hearing him talk in that session?
I think he sounds excited to be back in the league for sure. I think that he just sounds like same old P. He just is happy to be in football. And for him to have said, I never really stopped. He watched when he was asked about Chip Kelly. He said that he had watched a ton of his, football, and that he had seen a lot of. I loved when he said he'd seen a lot of high school football too.
Yeah.
So he's been in it, but he just seemed like this is truly where he belongs.
Yeah, it was really good to see him back. A lot of questions getting thrown out there. At one point he saw Bob Condata in the crowd of the scrum, and he's like, "Hey," and Bob had no question for him, and so he went back. He's like, "I'm coming back to you," and Bob did come back and he asked a question about his son who'd been coaching with the guy at University of Washington, Jed Fish.
Oh yeah.
Right? And Pete, answered, but those relationships don't, people don't realize that there are these kinds of bonds that form, and obviously Bob is a objective reporter and tried to keep that objectivity, but when you're a coach and you've been there for 14 years and you've been fielding questions from guys and you kind of know, I think it was kind of cool to see that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
John. So, look, we got Mr. Dave Canales walking by here behind us.
He gave a great. I posted a video on Our Turf, a great quote earlier about his defense. I really liked it. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you remember what it was about?
Just basically that he completely understood what was wrong with their defense and that they had to stop, fix the run game. And but he was just very kind of in depth with it. It was really good.
Well, I mean, it's one of the cool things here is just watching some of the coaches and the GMs kind of filter through. The Panthers are over here in the corner. They got the corner spot, corner suite.
With the blue drape. That's
the
perfect.
blue drape. That works for them. So John Schneider spoke. And I'm curious, what stood out to you, if anything, from that
I did
time?
miss kind of the first half of that. I literally was running from my hotel room over, so I did miss part of that. But I did hear that basically for what everything Mike McDonald has been saying, it just kind of echoed back from him that that he just seems they kind of know what they're looking for, know what they want, very excited about the new coaching staff. And so that was really interesting to me. He, too, is just one of those guys that's so easy breezy, whatever, that it's like I'm just listening to him and I'm like, oh, I should have written that down. You know what I mean? You kind of forget a little bit. But what did you hear from him?
I was joking with you before we went on that it has been such a whirlwind. I had to do transcribing for Pro Football Writers, and then I was
good for you.
And then I had audio, all this stuff. I've listened to John, listened to Pete, listened to John. So they do the podium press conference, and then they pull you aside to do for the local reporters to have a little bit more time with John, a little bit more informal.
Yep.
And I didn't know that you're not supposed to share that, that more broadly. No one tells me these things. I don't have an editor. I'm no one tells me the rules. So I got a little slap on the wrist for that. But anyway, point being, I got all this information flowing through my head. Pete, Dave Canales, and there's only a few things that are kind of percolating to the top. So the things that were of note to me. Maybe tops was something that happened in the side scrum, the private, local thing, where I asked John, you have a really young offensive line. How important do you think it is to add some experience to that group versus counting on a rookie to come in there and fill the gap? And he said it's very important.
Right.
Let's go. Yeah, so that was heartening.
Yes.
That was encouraging. He also came up, we asked about the center position.
Okay.
And I think there's been a lot of curiosity, myself included, about how do they see Olu Timmy? How do they see Jalen Sundell? He talked more about Jalen Sundell than he did about Olu, which is interesting. They really like Jalen Sundell. He was an undrafted rookie last year out of North Dakota State, which is the same school where Gray Zabel is
Yep.
a very popular prospect coming out this year. Anyway,
Oh, I know him. They beat my Montana State in the championship.
so John mentioned when we were talking about the center position, he did mention free agency. And he didn't like say that they were going to go get a free agent center, but I'm putting 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be checking in on Drew Dahlman this week. I'm pretty sure. I would bet they're checking in with his agent this week on what his price is. So, knowing that Klint Kubiak has said they want an elite center, knowing that Drew Dahlman, his strength is outside zone. 26-year-old guy.
God, so young still. Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, God,
like-
there's guys at this combine that are 26,
Yep.
right?
Yep. And he's been in the league now for 4 years, so he knows what he's doing. That was one of the things I took away.
That
Yeah.
would be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that as much crap as he has gotten about this offensive line quote, that was probably a throwaway from him,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That maybe he's heard us. It's sunk in just a little bit that, hey, you remember when you said this? We believed you. And so while I will tell everyone, take everything you hear from this combine with the grain of salt, because we all know. I think someone posted that, it was here at the combine that they said they weren't going to make a change at quarterback, and then a week later Russell Wilson was traded. And so it's like, no, you just don't believe it. But at the same time, you can start to kind of pick up the tidbits of what they have in their brain.
Yeah, I've seen comments in chat. People are still annoyed about the Cardinals backdrop.
You guys, there's nothing we can do.
I showed Dayna the massive suitcase I have that I'm lugging around. That thing was full to the brim. I don't have space for a backdrop.
Right.
And now, the headphones I brought are not working, so I'm gonna have to go out. I'm gonna have to go run an errand today.
That's annoying.
I don't even know. Hopefully, there's a Best Buy downtown or something.
I hope so.
I don't know. I'll find something. But we can't control this.
Sorry.
I'm not going to get a backdrop. Maybe tomorrow, do you think people would really want to see that as the backdrop?
So you get the Cardinals or the Steelers, you guys. You got to make up your mind.
Yeah, it's
which
going to
would
be
you rather?
Steelers and Panthers or Cardinals. But it is funny that everyone's like, is this a Cardinals broadcast?
Of all teams, right?
I'd take the Cardinals over the Rams or the 49ers.
I know,
So,
who are next door.
yeah, KNBR's next door. We were just talking with them. They're very nice. So other things that came up with the Schneider thing. One, I will say, poor John. He was sweating bullets up there.
He's using that towel left and right. It was crazy.
Dayna, I won't ask you to reveal your hygienic situation, but for me, I'm a sweater.
Uh-huh.
And I don't mean I wear sweaters. I am a sweater. and so I was feeling for John up there.
Yeah.
I was lugging that thing around to go get my credentials and back, and I was like, oh my God, my shirt's gonna look soaked. And so John's up there just flop sweating.
so
They eventually gave him a towel,
He did.
and he's
He was
toweling
wiping
off.
his whole head with the towel.
It was my nightmare.
It wasn't from the questions being thrown at him. He wasn't sweating that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was interesting. I asked him, I don't know if you were there for it, I asked him a question about, we're here at the Combine. You're going to see all these players do all these drills to get measured in all these different ways. If there was a Combine for scouts, what would you want them to be measured on? And he was like, oh, cool question.
That is a good
He was
question.
excited about
Yeah.
it. And he went on, he basically spent most of the time talking about how do they make connections with other people? How do they build relationships? And he went on for a while. I'll play the clip later in another show, but
Yeah.
and he talked about some of the new interns that they've hired full time, young guys, young people, and how he really loves the way that their minds work in terms of, we know this coach that can meet this person, and how they're building this connection network. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And he also talked about, because someone followed up, when did these the relationships, when did the character of the players, when did that start coming up? And he said, really 3 years ago, we spent time reflecting on our process, and we're like, why are we missing in the draft? Why? He said that. Why are we missing?
Yeah.
And one of their answers, our primary answer is like they just really wanted to know the person better. And that anybody can, like a lot of people, you kind of just figure out the football stuff.
Right.
But how well do they know the person? And he just said that over and over again.
It's funny you say that because of all of these interviews that I have listened to and gone and recorded, NIL has come up in almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
Someone has asked about NIL and
Yeah.
how do they see that as affecting their drafts and the players. Most of the coaches were flat out and said, we talked to them about the NIL and were they chasing money? Why did you go to 5 schools? Were you chasing money or was it because you were trying to get better? You know, this sort of thing. And so I think it was really interesting that it just keeps coming up. Every single answer came back to the character of the player. They wanted to see how NIL. This guy stayed at this same small school and he only got $3,000 of NIL when he could have transferred anywhere and he didn't. Why? Was he afraid or was he just dedicated to his team? And so I think that's a really good point by him, but it seems to be kind of a recurrent theme with the NFL.
I think that's a great call. I heard some of the same stuff on NIL. We saw it last year in the draft. Mike Jarrell was a player the Seahawks drafted in the 6th round. He was at a little school. He had been offered meaningful NIL money to go someplace else. And he said he wanted to be the first player, to be announced from his school. I think it's Findlay, if I'm remembering right.
It is, yeah.
And that's a factor probably in them evaluating. I also heard, I think it was John talking about this with NIL. It might have been somebody else. Anyway,
I think John did mention it, I think.
That you kind of know, okay, well, someone now has money. How do they spend it? How much do you love football? Like, because once you have the money, like you can kind of see, one of the things that used to always be the case in the NFL is the money going to change
who they are? Yeah, that's a good point.
And so now you can kind of see in some cases, there's other players that are getting $30,000, which is more than a lot of. I didn't get $30,000 in college.
I didn't either.
I was spending it to go there, but if they're still grinding and they're getting just a little bit relative to these others, that also shows you. And then it's like, oh, and if they've moved across to different teams, different colleges, is that because they were chasing money? Was it because there was a depth situation and they wanted to get a chance?
Right.
Is it because
more visibility for TV? Like there's so many things.
These different factors.
Yeah. And he did, I think what he said in that, because I remember him talking about this too, I think what he said, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, is that he said these kids could already be making more than they would be making in the NFL their first year.
Yep.
And so what does that mean to them? You know what I mean? I thought it's a really, psychologically, it's a really interesting point.
It is. It's certainly changed. It's changed the face of this event, especially. Like, so many of these kids were coming here for the chance to get their first check that they could buy their mom her first home, or a car, or pay off a debt, or support their family. And a lot of those, I mean, there's still people in that situation for sure, but a lot of those people have already done that now. So it's and there's other players that probably shouldn't come out and should just go take more NIL money.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a really fascinating shift in the game.
And it makes you wonder, I mean, people have talked about COVID being the reason that some of these players are older, which is absolutely true. But at the same time, it does make you wonder too, are they staying in it for more money? Or, that sort of thing. So then we're getting these 26-year-old players at the combine, so.
Yeah, I'm curious. You're going to get a chance to talk to Mike McDonald tomorrow, where he's going to speak at the podium. You have not seen him in person before, is
I
that
have
right?
not seen him in person, no.
If you decide to ask a question, what question would you want to ask him?
That's really good. I've always wondered, and I wanted to ask other head coaches, especially ones that have been there for a long time, I want to know in what moment did they go, oh my God, I'm the head coach? Like, when was that realization? When was it, this is all on me now? Was it, when they got the phone call with the job offer? Was it the beginning of their first game? Was it the end of the first season when something didn't go the way they wanted to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting. I think it gives a little glimpse into who they are, too. I know you guys give me a bad time. I really do like Mike McDonald a lot.
Sorry.
But, no, you're
checking my spot.
Oh, okay. But I do enjoy him. I just couldn't get a read on him because he was so guarded. Man, that guard has come way down now, I think. I think that he has kind of relaxed into that position. He's still very serious, but he doesn't seem so rigid, I guess, for lack of a better word. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him, and I don't know that those are his best environments, to be honest. I think he's better in the more casual settings. I think he's more comfortable in those, but looking forward to that. What, in the last few minutes here, what are you kind of hoping for to find out the rest of the week? Anything high on your list?
So we have split up. Kate and I, who does our turf with me, we are splitting up, and I'm really ready to kind of come and talk to these kids, but I like the small school kids because I came from a small school. I like the players that maybe are projected in like the 6th, 7th round. I just think that they have a little bit more interesting of a strength, and they're less polished. You get these kids who are definitely going to go in the first. They have been coached. They know exactly what to say. You get these same canned answers. We get them at the draft every year. It's the same answer over and over. So I'm really kind of interested to go and talk to some of these other kiddos and to get a read. One thing I do when I go cover the draft is I will go to the Play 60 event. That's usually 2 days in the town where the draft is a couple days before. And it's very casual and very relaxed. And you just have some great conversations with these draftees. And I'm hoping to get some more of that here. It'll be good.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, so tomorrow is when the players will start getting up on podiums, and I'll send you some
defense these first couple days.
I'll send you some text. Maybe we'll split up a couple and try
absolutely.
there's so many to talk to. But now that I see the way it's set up, it's going to be hard to bounce between. You kind of have to pick one or two at most.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's going to be an interesting challenge tomorrow. Well, Dayna, this has been great.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We will. Maybe tomorrow night we'll do a real Hawk Talk. We'll try to. Nathan won't be here quite yet.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll hook up with either Evan or Jeff.
Absolutely.
Online and have a real Hawk Talk conversation.
That'll be super fun. I'm excited. We're having a good time. Yeah,
yes. Dayna O'Gorman, the one, the only. Make sure you follow her. Follow our turf as well. So many great things going on. Really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, in a minute, I think we'll see if he's going to come by. I think Grant Cohn's going to come by. I will let you guys know. In the meantime, I'll kind of give you a little bit more info about what happened with John Schneider. So a couple pieces there, and you're welcome to stay. You're welcome to jet as well. Whatever works best for you. One of the things that stood out to me for John Schneider was he actually said he felt bad for fans, which was an interesting thing to hear from John, that he felt like, hey, we haven't made the playoffs in 2 years, and we're just not the team that we've wanted to be. And I think having him acknowledge that, I think was good. I think it's good for him. He said he had just been talking to Dave Pearson about that, and there was a follow-up question about, like, well, what is the identity that you want to establish? And that's when it gets to their, what every team says: smart, tough, fast, physical, blah, right? That doesn't really tell me much. But what I do know is that John, he spoke about this as well, and he's spoken about before, he really believes that a massive change for how they're going to affect their identity and establish their identity this year is going to be having Klint Kubiak, John Benton, Rick Dennison, Andrew Janoko, Outen, all these guys that have coached together, who know each other.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I think I'm going to go. Bye, you guys. Thank you. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
And he really is looking at those guys as some folks that have really worked together, know how to coach that specific scheme, know how that scheme works, And he feels like they just haven't had that really almost since the Alex Gibbs time frame, where there was a scheme and there was a way that they wanted to run it and that they knew how to do it. So for him, that's a pretty significant aspect of what they've done this offseason to affect it. So that's different than personnel. It's different than just figuring out which players you can add. He's also acknowledged that they need to identify and add more players. So I think he's saying all the right things. I know that maybe it doesn't always come out in the crispest, like perfectly articulated soundbite way, but I see the outline of the plan that they've got, and it makes sense to me. And that hasn't always made sense to me in the past. So that was really positive to hear. And there's going to be a lot more from this press conference. Like I said, I'm still having to go back and read notes. But I'm just checking a couple things here to see if there were anything that jogged my memory. I had asked him earlier on, like, what's the gap between where they are and the contending teams to be a really great team. And his answer was both sides of the ball. And that's what ended up leading to his answer about saying he feels bad for the fans because of not making the playoffs. So when I asked him the biggest gap between the Seahawks and truly contending, both sides of the ball, that was music to my ears. I also asked him, and I don't think I have the transcript. Let me see if I can pull this up. Give me 1 second, folks. And I will pull this up because this is from the off-podium presser. Let me see if I can get the transcript. I asked him about what was it? Yes. I asked him about the offensive line and that everyone's going to be talking about it and that it's clearly an area that they need to grow, but that this draft is really strong on defensive line, and we just saw the Super Bowl champs and the Eagles, they just keep adding to a position of strength. So what's his philosophy on adding to a position of strength as opposed to maybe bumping up a need? And here's what he said. He said, we have made our biggest mistakes when we have pushed players up our board for need. Or, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so he says you have to be careful. You have to take the best, but you really have, it's our philosophy to take the best player, take the best person as a competitor, and try to stick with someone in there. It's hard. You're drafting a guy, and you're like, the better player is there. You got to pick him. And so I'm looking at the transcript. I think some of the transcript is off, but I was encouraged by that answer as well, because I think one of the potential traps for the Seahawks in this draft is that they overweight need of offensive line, that they feel the pressure from everywhere. Take an offensive lineman. And so no matter what, they take an offensive lineman in the first round. I think there's a plausible situation where the best player for them to take at 18 is not an offensive lineman. It is a defensive tackle or an edge player or something along those lines, maybe a tight end. And I think one of the biggest mistakes the Seahawks could make is overweighting need and missing out on a better player, because I'll be honest, folks, the Seahawks aren't just like a good offensive line away from being a contender. They are great players away from being a contender. They need more great players. And so you got to find every opportunity to add them. and don't just get blinded by need. And this is something John's talked about in the past. By the way, Grant Cohn is making his way over, so he'll be joining here in a second. So looking forward to chopping it up with Grant. It should be funny. Hopefully he'll find me all the way over here. Next thing he talked about relative to the offensive line. And I'll kind of read this quote to you. This was about how they've changed their evaluation of the offensive line. And some of it is related to having new coaches, right? He talked about that. But he said that this group, that this philosophy, that running off the line is a key part of the skill. Outside zone, getting off the line quickly is a key skill. And so now they're evaluating players based off that skill that maybe wasn't a top criteria or characteristic before. I think it's also interesting that they'll be looking at their existing guys in a different way than they did before, because if you guys watched this show when I did some film breakdown, especially like the short yardage show, if you watch that I did, some of it's painful. But one of the things I noticed is there were some guys on the line who were really slow off the snap. If you slow down frame by frame, they would still be in their stance with their hand in the ground 2 or 3 frames after the snap, and everyone else was moving. That's a big problem. And I think, I don't want to put anyone specifically out there, but like some of the younger guys, especially, I think, that were getting their initial chances, they were, you can go back and watch that and you'll see who I'm talking about. But I think firing off the ball, being quick off the snap, I think is big, and getting guys that can do that. And I think this all feeds back into what I've been sharing about which players fit and which players don't. Gray Zabel, he fits. He really, really, really fits. I haven't watched enough Tyler Booker to really assess how quick he is off the ball. I know he's super strong, super stout, but that's interesting. As a person, Tyler Booker, as I said, John Schneider's talking a lot about evaluating the person. They're going to get nothing but glowing reviews of Tyler Booker. And so I think both of those guys remain real possibilities for the Seahawks at 18 or within their first few picks. And so now we got to do something else. We're going to change gears. We're going to add a guy to the show who just causes problems. He just causes problems wherever he goes. Do you get out of bed, Grant Cohn, from the Cohn zone? Do you get out of bed and just think, how can I fuck with people?
Absolutely. Yes. How am I gonna fuck up things today? So what happened? You're what I would call a very couth person. I'm uncouth. And so we were in a similar situation. We're on this flight, and I'm not even paying attention. I'm a terrible reporter. You've spotted like 15 NFL employees.
Yes.
And slyly, privately, you let me know. And I'm like, oh, guess who's on the flight? It's Pete Carroll. And I'm like filming them like I'm paparazzi, which is just extremely uncouth. So I took credit for it. But it was all him. He told me the people were there. Pete Carroll got his privacy ruined. But I thought it was fun.
It was great. I was so glad you did it.
Yeah. Because I felt like you were going to do it. Like,
I wasn't going to do it.
Fuck it.
No, that was great. And what a weird. Why were you on the flight out of Seattle, dude?
There were no direct flights from the Bay, so I had to go to Seattle.
You have really strong takes on how to travel. I've seen it from you. People think it's just about the 49ers, but
No.
there's like right and wrong ways to travel for you.
Well, to me, I think Airbnb is a game changer when you're staying anywhere for more than a day. Because I'm staying Airbnb.
Wait, hold on,
downtown.
everybody. Grant Cohn's telling you about Airbnb. If you haven't heard of it before.
Oh, this is huge. I'm a boomer. I got like a place for a week for $600.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 nights in a hotel. So that's, I think that's, if you're paying for your own way, you're going to the house. I don't want to dox you.
No.
I don't want to dox you.
People are welcome to find me.
But I feel like I got a better rate.
I would. When you told me you did an Airbnb, well, So I'm not a big Airbnb guy because I've had some bad experiences at Airbnbs.
They're not glamorous.
No, it feels kind of gross, to be honest, a lot of times.
There is a gross element to it.
You're like, but when you said that, I was like, that was the move.
It's like,
that was the
I'm
move.
gonna be there. I'm gonna be here all day.
Yeah.
It's technically clean. I don't see any bed bugs. I feel okay about it, but it's only been one night.
And you hit one of the famous spots last night to eat. How big is food for you on your trips in terms of evaluating like your performance on your travel?
It's part of what I base my opinion on a city. Like, how good is their food?
Yeah.
If I want to go back there, is there a place I'm looking forward to, or is there a place I've heard about?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of Indianapolis in that way. And I've been looking around, like, where is the quintessential spot to eat? I went to the steakhouse last night. It was a lot of
St.
fun.
Elmo's.
Yeah.
If people don't know,
You'll go.
I will go. I'm
What's
going
cool about
tomorrow.
it is, like, it's probably 100 years old. It's one room.
Yeah.
It's one long bar with some tables along the wall, and it's really, really good. It's not. I mean, on the West Coast, places like that are really expensive. You get a steak for like $55.
Well,
It's not bad.
Not bad.
And it's way better because they're corn fed out. Did you know that?
I've heard.
It's better.
I've heard.
It just tastes better. I can't really explain it.
I had a steak as well last night. It was very solid. Did not go to St. Elmo's, but I'm gonna have
Across the street.
at Tony's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was good. It was good. We had really like the people here are nice.
It's
No?
an interesting vibe. So it's
Okay,
I
tell
do
me.
so it's Midwest and they're all very nice, but it's one of these border towns. Like, yes, you were on the side that won the Civil War. Right? But you're really close to the Confederacy. So I feel like there's a little southern flavor, like that you see in cities like
Interesting.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Denver kind of pretends it's Texas.
Denver for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of pretends it's Kentucky here, which I like.
There's sometimes Denver-ho, like
Yes.
like a little bit Idaho-ish
Yes.
in Denver. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It is very white. Like it is like
Yes.
white as like the brightest sun, like in Denver.
Yeah, there's a million people here in Indianapolis, and they all look like Peyton Manning.
A lot of big foreheads.
Yeah.
So I will say I thought people have been pretty nice, but you came today on a mission.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You came here today on a mission because there's no 49ers guys to talk to, right? Like Kyle Shanahan's not here. I don't know. And by the way, Sean McVay's not. The Rams don't seem to be here at all.
LaFleur, yeah, all that clique.
What is that
McDaniel
about?
Came,
Yeah.
D'Amico came. I don't know. So what am I supposed to ask? Like, hey, what do you think of the Niners? They can't talk about the Niners.
Yeah.
So I figured that was, why are you here?
Why are you here?
Why are you here? Because my guy's not, and he thinks this is clearly beneath him and a waste of his time. So it was nice to get like Sean Payton's explanation, Pete Carroll's explanation. These are champions who are very experienced and very thoughtful and smart.
Does Kyle Shanahan know how to win a championship? Has he done that yet?
He's almost won a bunch of championships.
He's lost a lot of championships.
That's another way you could call it losing.
If you want to know how to lose,
I think he thinks of it as almost winning.
Yes.
If a play here, a play there, you know how the refs are.
So I'm curious. So you went like this is classic Grant Cohn trolling. He and reporting as well, but it's reporting with a little bit of a poke. And he went and asked all these different coaches, "Why are you here? What do you get out of the combine?" And I was there when you asked the Pete Carroll question. I was like, "Oh, I know exactly who's asking that question." And all these guys are pretty effusive about it. Like, oh man, the amount of connections, like getting to know these people, talking to them, like actually meeting with the individual players, meeting with agents, meeting with other team personnel, like
the whole human element of the sport and the league. And all these coaches are like, it's really important. And I think, I don't want to speak for Kyle, but I think he downplays the human element in a lot of the aspects of this. Like, he just calls plays. What does Dan Campbell do? I don't know. He has a personality. He's a human being. He's not just like thinking about the next play. Or Kyle is probably somewhere right now thinking about the next play, which makes him good at what he does. But he's supposed to be a head coach. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
So it's about the formal interviews. That's what all the coaches say. You want to meet the players. Can you imagine Kyle Shanahan in a formal interview with players?
You would be able to answer that question than me.
He doesn't like the media. He doesn't play rookies. You think he really wants to meet those kids who haven't even been in the NFL? He's probably sitting there like this.
Is that his vibe?
Yes. He can't pretend to be enthusiastic about something he's not. He can't fake anything. He has no poker face. So if he's not feeling it, if he doesn't really want to be there, and I'm sure the Niners at a certain point, it's like, dude, you're not helping. Why don't you just stay home, man? John can fake it. You know what I mean?
Right. So John Lynch will be here tomorrow.
Yeah,
he's
a
here.
politician.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? We're the 49ers. Kyle's over there like, yeah, man.
You know, I feel some kind of way
Yeah.
about John Schneider today mentioning that his good buddy John Lynch and him, you know, talk a lot. They're good friends.
Interesting.
I feel like that is a betrayal of what needs to be animosity between these division rivals.
It used to be that.
I mean, you got Pete Carroll going to the Raiders, who are former heated rival.
Yes.
You got John Lynch, who's like a buddy over there. And you know what? You'll appreciate this. My biggest fear,
Yeah.
as a Seahawks fan who also covers the team, is that they're in cahoots. They talk about, like, oh, yeah, offensive line, you don't need to draft offensive line.
You just got Klint Kubiak. Oh my
Right?
God.
You don't need to draft offensive line. I heard your offensive line coach last year talk about,
He went into it.
he's like, oh, draft the guys that score touchdowns. Draft the skill players. We'll take care of the
You
rest.
just want to find starters. Because what does the best right guard do? Oh, he pancaked a guy. Like, he really says this stuff on the record like, okay, man. So, good luck with that. I mean, it'll be a step up for the Seahawks. So you guys have had nothing on the offensive line for a while.
Yes. It's rough. I mean, you guys have had Trent Williams and nothing on
And
the
nothing,
offense.
yes.
Like, it's pretty rough. The 49ers, I mean, Dominic Pooney had a really solid rookie year. I don't know that Trent, even if he comes back, he's not Trent Williams anymore. Like, that last year was the year that he...
Let's back up. Even if he comes back, you went really fast there. That's my question for John Lynch tomorrow. John, are you 100% certain that Trent Williams is going to play football this year? Answer that. Are you 100% certain that he's going to? Because what if he's not? And they don't tell us that kind of stuff. What if they're working behind the scenes like, Trent, take your time. Don't make a decision. Because he just left this year. And I know he had a lot going on, injuries and personal tragedies, but sometimes players stick around and talk at the end of the season. He was gone. He kind of was acting like a guy who may not play football again. So I just want to hear him say on the record that he's 100% certain he's playing next year. He might say something like, well, you never know with anyone.
He won't go 100%.
No.
He won't.
No.
If he comes back, he's still just not the same guy. He's very good.
He's one of the best.
He's very good,
For
but he's not
10
the
to
same
15
guy.
Games he plays. And when he doesn't play, since he's been on the team, the Niners are 4-12. Because without him, their offensive line is like Seahawks-esque, and they don't have Geno
Yeah.
Smith to bail him out.
Well, Mr. Purdy, like, this is why you and I are good together, because I sit here and defend 49ers for some odd reason. I've been a guy who's like, I think Brock Purdy is one of the better quarterbacks. And I thought he we talked before the 49ers Seahawks game in San Francisco, or Santa Clara, and he was kind of the only thing that was keeping anything working for them. He was bailing out, I feel like, Kyle Shanahan. He could not figure out how to play call against Mike McDonald. But from that point on, Brock Purdy did one of these, dude. Like, he was rough. He was really rough
He
the rest
lost a lot
of the year.
games in fourth quarters. He had 8 touchdowns and 10 picks in the second half.
Yeah. 8 touchdowns and 10 picks in the second half.
But meanwhile, in the first half, he was 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. So something in him, the first 2 seasons of his career, he was blowing teams out. And he gets credit for that.
Yeah.
This year, the games were close. And in the close games, he melted down more often than not, which is very troubling. And I know the Niners say they want him to be there long term, and they're going to offer him something. I'm sure they've offered him something already, but you really want to pay him more than $50 million a year? Really?
In this quarterback
the Rams
market,
don't want to do that with Stafford, who's old, but clearly better.
Yeah.
Clearly better than Brock Purdy. And
Yeah.
the Niners are like, well, we don't know what the Niners, to their credit, we really don't know what they're doing yet.
they're going to pay him. They're going to pay him. I want to get back to this. But finishing the thought on the John Lynch, John Schneider thing, I think that they kind of talk to each other, and they're like, oh, yeah, these other guys don't get it. We don't have to pay offensive linemen. We want to spend our draft picks on other guys. We're going to figure out with our scheme how to cover it. For the 49ers, I heard that last year, and I was like, they've actually been able to do it. Like, every single year, 49ers come in, and everybody looks at their line, and they're like, this is rough. They don't have anybody. And every single year, somehow, Kyle Shanahan has been able to mask it in a way that they're really good running the ball.
Yeah.
They're very explosive passing the ball. Last year, it fell apart. Like, that did not happen. Why? Why was it different last year?
I think if you have this kind of an offensive line, you have to win a specific way. Like the game script has to go a certain way. You have to get the lead early. You have to maintain balance. You always have to have the threat of the run because they're a good run blocking unit. I mean, they're not a big physical run blocking unit, but they're good at the outside zone. They're quick, and you have to honor that. And so if they're up 10, play action's deadly. But if it's close in the fourth quarter, or they're down in the fourth quarter, and they have to actually pass, and they know it, then all of a sudden their like rinky-dink right guard is going to get destroyed by Chris Jones, which has happened in multiple Super Bowls. So it's good in certain situations, but it doesn't seem good enough to win a Super Bowl because you're never going to not have to come from behind.
Yeah. Well, this is of interest because for Seahawks fans, because as you said, Klint Kubiak, now the guy in Seattle, he's brought John Benton, who formerly was a offensive line coach in San Francisco.
True.
And that was Kyle Shanahan's first offensive line coach in San Francisco. Were you covering the team back then?
I was. The way I remembered Benton is that he left with the Niners to go with Saleh to the Jets. Am I correct?
I'm going to move over so people don't have to look at this guy's rear. There we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Look at he's like, I'm going to have my ass on this live stream no matter what.
He's got a sense for it.
Okay, all right.
What were we talking about?
John Benton.
Okay, so I got the feeling that Saleh took him to the Jets and the Niners were happy.
Yeah, say it.
Go ahead. Because they wanted Chris Forrester. Do you remember Chris Forrester's story?
No.
What he did?
No.
Can I talk? Okay, so he was the offensive line coach with the Dolphins.
Okay.
And you don't know this?
No, I don't. Fill me in.
No one's ever. Okay, I'll see if I can. Okay, so he was offensive line coach with the Dolphins, and he's making a lot of money. And I don't know what happened, but he Okay, so
you were struggling for words, which makes me really interested in the story. Finish the story.
He made a video before going into a meeting that he was leading, and there was a white powdery substance. We don't know what it was that he had the white powdery substance, and he was talking directly to a stripper, I believe, that he had met, and had a good time together, and he was talking about how much he was looking forward to seeing her again. And she just decided to put it online. I guess she didn't like him like he liked her. And so he had to leave the Dolphins after that. And
Hashtag NFL life.
So he kind of ruined his career. But the Niners, they saw a good coach in distress. So they brought him into the organization, kind of in the back door.
Did he show some sort of blocking ability in, like, either online or,
All I know is he comes to I don't even want to say it, but he has so much energy in the press conferences, and I think it's great. He just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks, and that's just his personality. I love that guy.
It's just his personality. It's not artificial. There's no substance that causes that.
I don't know. He seems like a good coach.
Yeah.
He developed Pooney. But yeah, that's his story.
Unbelievable. All right, so because I looked at the numbers of John Benton, and they did improve. They became a pretty good run offense, but there's still some questionable stuff, and I haven't seen a lot of John Benton going to other places and having a lot of success. So
they drafted Mike McGlinchey when Benton was on the team.
He's gone to Denver and not been that bad.
No, but he was
better than Colton McKivitz.
No, he was a nice pick in the draft, though.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah. But at least they drafted an offensive lineman in the first round. Kyle won't even do that anymore. He's like, third round sounds good.
That's generally that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Lynch and Schneider. Anyway, so Klint Kubiak, he was there for a year, and now you got his brother.
Yeah.
There. What's your take on the Kubiaks?
I get the feeling that Gary Kubiak is a really good coach's coach. Maybe even more so than Mike Shanahan. And if Kubiak was the first person to give Kyle Shanahan like the reins as an offensive coordinator. So I think Kyle, maybe there's a little bit of like, hey man, remember when I made you an offensive coordinator when you were freaking nobody in 28? Now my son needs a job. What are you gonna do? Maybe there's a little bit of that in the industry. Like, you'd be nothing without me. So I kind of need a favor. Maybe it's a favor. But to be fair, the Kubiaks all seem like they're just as good as the Shanahans. It's like the Montagues and the Capulets.
I don't quite understand that kind of lineage, right? Like, it all starts with Mike Shanahan
Yes.
and Gary Kubiak, right?
Yes.
And then, so maybe Mike gets ultimate credit, like Shanahan is the trunk of the tree.
Yeah, but Gary Kubiak was his offensive coordinator and play caller for those Super Bowls. I mean, he might have been the one. I don't know. But here's what's interesting to me. So you had Pete Carroll. You sort of gracefully push him out, bring in
Yes.
Mike McDonald, who
Yes.
brings in a Shanahan disciple.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Carroll goes to Vegas and brings in Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
That's a different direction.
Yeah.
So Pete Carroll sees the NFL evolving into the zone read option, RPO, which, I mean, the Eagles kind of run that too.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks are all in with the Shanahan offense, which to me is a throwback. It's under center. It's a fullback.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. How did the Seahawks and Pete Carroll sort of go different directions on that philosophy?
Well, I don't think that was his philosophy when he was here.
True.
And as he, you heard, he talked about his time off. Every time Pete Carroll takes time off, he gets better. Like, every stop he makes, he gets a little bit better. And I don't doubt that he learned some things this past year watching junior, JV football or whatever he was watching. But, look, the Seahawks are in a situation where there's been a thing for like a decade that has kept them from being effective. And when you look at the offensive line as being that thing, it hasn't, well, there's really had been two things. Both sides, defensive line, offensive line. They've now addressed, the defensive line is pretty good and could get much better even with this draft. The offensive line, one part of its personnel, one part of its development, great. But there's also play calling and scheme. And this particular scheme that they're running, you do get under center. You do get play action. You do get the linebackers in conflict where they can't quite tell if it's going to be a bootleg or it's going to be a wide zone.
Slows down the pass rush.
Right? So it has that effect, and I think that they're looking at every single friggin' thing that they can do to not have the worst offensive line in football. And I give them a golf clap for that.
It's always a good goal to not have the worst offensive line in football.
We're shooting for the stars.
No, but I mean, you guys do have good offensive tackles when
Yes,
healthy.
yes.
Getting a center would go a long way. I'm
Yes.
sure you guys will be in the Drew Dahlman sweepstakes.
I think so. Do you think the Niners are going to be?
I do, but I think they have limited funds. I mean, they can't just throw $50 million
No.
at Drew Dahlman because they have to worry about Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
So if you want Drew Dahlman, you could probably have him. And again, it's the same scheme. He fits it.
He does. I feel like Falcons I think they should try to bring him back.
Right.
I think the Seahawks make a lot of sense. I'm sure there's other teams as well, but Drew Dahlman's not a great center, period. He is a great wide zone center.
Exactly.
So you got to look at the teams that are in the market for a wide zone center, and I don't think that there's an unlimited number of those. What else do the 49ers need? Like, what do you think they're? We know the Purdy stuff. Don't care.
They couldn't stop the run at the end of the season. I mean,
Defensive line,
they're
right?
cutting Hargrave. Leonard Floyd's old and has 1 year left on his deal.
Does he have a year left? I thought he was a 1 year sign.
He's a 2 year sign.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. So Robert Saleh's back, and he's kind of has to clean up this mess. They're on their fourth D coordinator the last 4 years, and so they've made a lot of different personnel decisions with different coaches in mind. And now Saleh has to decide who he wants to keep, and who he wants to go, who he wants to get rid of. Do they want to keep Drake Greenlaw? Do they want to? I mean, they kind of have to rebuild their entire front seven. They have Bosa and Warner.
Are you happy to have somebody who's friendly to you back in the 49ers organization with Robert Saleh coming
Yes,
back?
absolutely.
Does that make your job a little easier?
It does, because he likes me, and I think maybe he speaks well about me to other people in the organization. It's like, hey,
I don't know how much
that's
that's you've dug enough of a hole
4
there.
years of chase.
I don't
Sorry.
know, but that's got to be nice.
Yeah. Maybe he'll bring Kinlaw back with him.
I mean, Kinlaw did some things. He's
Stay
not
healthy.
great. I feel like Bryce Huff. If Eagles aren't using him, that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, they need another edge rusher.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh's seen him at his best.
Yes.
Like, he's got to be a 49er, right?
I would think so. I think they're going to definitely fill that role, the speed rusher. It could be with the first round pick, too. They could take James Pierce Jr. or Jalen Walker or someone like that. I mean, he did take Will McDonald with the 15th pick a couple of years ago. He's like 239 pounds.
Yep.
But so, yeah.
Yeah, he is very James Pierce-esque.
Very James
Yeah.
Pierce-y.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm curious to see what Saleh does. I have a feeling they're going to hit the defense hard this year because it was 29th in points allowed. Yeah.
And, I mean, Seahawks fans are looking at the 49ers. 49ers, I got to say, man, it's a little annoying. They're like, when they go bad, they go bad.
Yeah.
And so they, like, you look at the 49ers and what they did to build up that
like
last
they tanked.
roster. It's almost
like they
almost like they tank because
It's like, hey,
all these
Trent,
top
we're not
10
going
picks.
anywhere this year. You're 36 years old. Your ankle hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
just
Dude.
But let's remind you how
Yeah.
much your ankle hurts.
Yeah.
And so they actually missed on a lot of their top 10 picks, like Kinlaw, like Solomon Thomas, like
Trey Lance.
like Trey Lance. They traded a bunch more picks to miss on Trey Lance, who's, by the way, available. But they had enough low picks. They were bad enough for long enough that they also got Eric Armstead, and they got DeForest Buckner, and they got Nick Bosa. But then they stopped going for they lost track of the fact that they built this team on defensive line.
Well, here's the thing. They like to say that they sort of inherited scorched earth and built this from scratch. Yes and no. They inherited Buckner and Armstead.
Yeah.
And those guys were really foundational for a while. You got rid of both of them. And since then, they've acquired Bupkis on the D-line, Javon Hargrave, D Ford. They drafted Drake Jackson and Javon Kinlaw and Solomon. Let's not forget Solomon Thomas. I mean, they've really haven't hit on that position at all, and now they have to draft multiple defensive linemen this year and make up for all those misses.
Well, one of the things that's been interesting, Seahawks fans shit on the Seahawks for all sorts of reasons, valid ones and non-valid. But you can look at the Seahawks had to rebuild their defensive line. They made a big move for Leonard Williams. That has worked out. Yep. They drafted Boye Mafe. They drafted Derek Hall. Those guys are working out. They signed Uchenna Nwosu, who's been good when healthy. Even Jaron Reed has been remarkably good for the price he paid. 49ers, they went big on Javon Hargrave. They spent a lot of money on Javon Hargrave, and he didn't work out.
He wasn't a scheme fit. It's what kills me. The Niners run this wide 9 gimmicky front.
Yeah.
And the Eagles don't. They run a 5-man front, and he gets a lot of one-on-ones, and he's like 300 pounds. The Niners put him in a wide 9, and he was just getting blown off the ball by double teams in the run game. Like, well, obviously.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this all gets to me. Pick number 11 comes. You know whether or not Trent Williams does come back and whether he does play. You need offensive line help, and there's a lot of meaningful tackles. You also know that the defensive line was a major issue, and there's a lot of great defensive edge players or tackles. If you had to bet right now, which do you think that they want to address? Or let me give you a third choice. Tyler Warren, is he the next George Kittle?
Yeah, I like Tyler Warren a lot. If there's a question in their mind that Trent Williams won't play next year, they have to take an offensive tackle. And that sucks because it's not a great year for offensive tackles. Everyone is like, but is he a guard, really? I don't know. You got to figure that out. And maybe if Kyle Shanahan were here, that would help. But if Kelvin Banks Jr. is available at 11 and they consider him a left tackle, you have to. And the way I look at it is, I'm not saying offensive line is more important than defensive line, but I do think it's harder to find good offensive linemen.
It is.
And the fact that it's harder to find good offensive linemen means fewer of them reach free agency or are traded. Like, Joe Staley was just on the Niners forever.
Yeah.
Because why would you trade him?
Yeah.
How are you going to replace him? So D linemen get traded all the time. Myles Garrett, the best D lineman in the freaking league, is currently
wanting to be traded.
Yeah, so they're both important, but you got to take an offensive tackle. And the Niners literally haven't drafted an offensive tackle since 2021.
I think as a Seahawks fan, the thing I'd be worried about the most is that they would take, honestly, I think Tyler Warren would probably be the thing that would be most concerning, because I think Kittle is going to start slowing down at some point, not necessarily next year. Warren's a really, really good fit for what they want to do. And I think if they go offensive tackle, I mean, if they get Armand Membu, then I'd be like, oh, shit. But if they get Kelvin Banks, good luck playing him at tackle. I don't think he's a tackle.
Fair enough.
I think he's a guard.
Okay.
I think Will Campbell is another guy that people are split on whether he's a tackle or a guard.
Yep.
And so when you're looking at like pure tackles, Josh Simmons could be the best option for them, but he's coming off an injury.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a patella tendon too, which ended Weston Richburg's career, so I don't think the Niners will even mess with that. It's a rough year.
It's a rough year to have the 11 pick and have the problems the 49ers do. I feel really bad about it.
It's true, because
I mean it.
Everyone's like, oh, Epiphany, you need a good offensive line in the NFL. And I was like, yeah. But it's what are you going to do, draft a guard at 11? You could.
You could.
The
Seahawks won't.
They won't.
Yeah.
Warren's interesting. Like, the Seahawks aren't in a position to get him, are they?
It would be surprising if he fell down there. I'll tell you, first mock draft I did was like 2 months ago. I traded back to like 23, and I drafted Tyler Warren, and I posted it, and I got flamed. Seahawks fans were like, what do you mean you're drafting a tight end? Like, who the fuck is this guy? Anyway, and I'm like, Tyler Lockett's retiring.
Yeah.
You're going to be a 2-receiver offense. Your tight end, Noah Fant, can't block to save his life.
Yeah.
And you could address the blocking. You could address as a receiving threat. And he can actually function as a H-back if you need him to. That'd be a good fit.
And here's the thing about the tight end in the outside zone blocking scheme, the run play. If you visualize it, what you're trying to do is get the edge.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the tight end's kind of the most important person blocking. Because if he's the best blocker, if he's George Kittle's
amazing.
You're going to get the edge.
He's amazing.
And if you have
at
Raheem Mostert running a 4.3, you'll get 7 yards running out of bounds.
Yeah.
So Noah Fant can't have him. You can't have a weak blocker at the point of attack in an outside zone. So Warren would be really important for a team like the Seahawks.
Yeah. I mean, Colson Loveland's a guy that a lot of people like at tight end, but he's a receiver. I don't think he's a fit for what.
Yeah, he's more like Travis Kelce, and they're not trying to beat you running outside zone.
All right, Grant, I don't want to keep you. I could keep you forever, but
thanks, man.
What else you got going on this week? What else? What are you focused on other than trolling the hell out of the 49ers?
Food reviews, man. Going around Indianapolis and I want to get a feel for this town.
This guy, we were supposed to go out to dinner tonight. He friggin' bailed.
Okay,
he bailed.
So
he bailed.
Boss,
That's who this guy is.
My boss, who I've never met, says we're going out for apps and drinks. You think I was saying no to that? Yeah, nah. Thanks for all the money and the opportunity, but I don't really feel like meeting you. Nah, so I'm going to that for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to that. Really excited. And then tomorrow is another one with my boss and colleagues.
Are you worried?
No, not at all. I'm really happy to go. No, I'm really happy to go. Really happy to go.
Uh-huh.
So next 2 nights are SI nights, but then after that, I'm around.
All right.
Do it. I mean, I'm going to be here Sunday. I'm doing Monday.
Oh, really? Dude, you're doing the whole
I
thing.
don't know why. I've never done it before. I just said
Okay, this is your first time?
Yes.
Dude.
And I want a thing at the table. How do you get a table? You got to know someone.
I'll tell you what. You can have like the end of my table. I got enough room.
You're so nice.
No, absolutely.
I'll talk quietly.
I doubt it. But I mean, I may require things of you, and
You can't see, but he has an incredible setup full of devices and technologies I've never seen in my life.
Yes.
This is incredible. What is this?
This is an audio interface. I can turn you all the way down, which people would really like. I can turn you up.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I should know these things.
But with all this amazing technology,
headphones.
I brought these are headphones. They don't work. So I have to after I finish with you, I'm probably gonna go see if there's like a Best Buy around Indianapolis. That's my big plans. Now that I don't have plans with you, my big plans is going to Best Buy.
All right. Well, so since you're gonna give me a sliver of the table, which is very generous of you, I will treat dinner.
Oh.
We'll go Thursday. Or
all right.
Whatever works for you.
Just give me like a percentage of your YouTube income.
Oh, easy. That's fair. Let's do that.
Yeah, dude. It's been great.
All right, man.
Have a great night.
See you, everyone.
As Grant Cohn, make sure you follow the best, most fun out there. So look at me all like out of focus. What's going on? How did I get so out of focus? There we go. I'm back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I will change the title of the episode and the thumbnail so we have Dayna and Grant as guests, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. That's what's going to happen all week. It's going to be random people at random times. You won't know what's happening unless you are subscribed. And when you click the bell to get notified on YouTube when I go live, that's your best bet. We're closing in on 15,000 subscribers. If I don't hit 15,000 subscribers this week, I'm going to be very annoyed. Come on. Let me put it in a more positive way. I'll be very glad if we hit 15,000 subscribers. And we should do it together because there's going to be a lot of great content. You're going to be happy you did. So go ahead and do that. I'll probably have Grant on again because, as you can tell, the guy gets me going. He and I have a lot of fun together. And I am grateful that there are people like Grant Cohn who do not take themselves seriously here and are really just trying to cause trouble. And the fact that he acts the way he does and does this for a living, it is remarkable. You generally aren't able to do that in this business. He does. And so I find it incredibly entertaining. He is like the Evan Hill equivalent in some ways to me of the 49ers. Super entertaining, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't already, make sure you give the show a like, click subscribe, and I'm going to go off and try to find a pair of headsets that will work with my setup. I'm so annoyed. Maybe I'll figure out the switch on these headphones that I'm just not finding. I had my other headphones at home, and I'm like, oh no, these ones will be great. I'll use these. Idiot. Stupid. Darn it. All right. So have a great rest of your afternoon. No promises that I will not come back on later. Keep an eye out. I think I have posted members-only content. The John Schneider press conference, which I don't think has been posted anywhere else. I've got at least most of that is posted to YouTube. It is members only. You have to be, I think, club level or higher to get access. It will go to public. Everyone will be able to see it later tonight. So members only for now. It will become public later tonight. I am in the process of trying to upload a Pete Carroll press conference. It is taking forever. I think a lot of people are using Wi-Fi, as you might expect, but that will be available, so you can check out the Pete Carroll press conference. All of the audio, perfect. Like, I'll geek out with you for a second. I've got this setup where I can take this little guy, plug this into my microphone, plug this into the actual professional audio input for the podium. So I'm getting direct audio from the microphone on the podium. Got it for the John Schneider podium. I got it for the Pete Carroll podium. I posted the audio, I edited it, posted it on patreon.com/hawkblogger. It's already there for you. I also have the audio from the off podium press conference with John Schneider. That's on patreon.com/hawkblogger. It's the only place you can find it. It will not show up anywhere else. No one else will have it. That's the place to get it. So go over there, patreon.com/hawkblogger. You can sign up, get it yourself, listen to it. It was very informative, and I will be playing some segments from that probably tomorrow morning. Although, I got to say, guys, tomorrow morning, the press conferences on the podiums with the players start at 8 a.m. So, I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to do HB Mornings. I will probably do multiple episodes, but I don't know exactly when. So, again, keep an eye out. I'll be back. I will get you tons more stuff. If you're not a Patreon member, now's the time to do it because the audio is probably going to be the same I'm going to be able to post most often. It's quickest. It's something that I can get from the press conferences. So that would be my recommendation. Patreon.com/hawkblogger. Doesn't cost that much to join and will also help pay for headphones that I need. So with that, I'm going to let you all go and appreciate you. I will see you later. Until then, I am Brian M. Hauser. This has been episode whatever. I don't know what episode this is of Hawk Blogger Mornings. This is a bonus episode. I don't know if I'm going to post the audio of this right away because I got other things to do. But hopefully you enjoyed it and appreciate it. Make sure you click like. Thank you. Bye.